So as you know, as the presentation was described, we're going to be talking a lot about the education, you know, what MOSI is focusing on from an educational platform in these times, and what our plans are for the future. And I think in order to do that, you have to have a brief reflection on the past to understand where we were and really appreciate how far MOSI has come. So whether you're familiar with it or not, MOSI had some significant issues leading up to 2017. In fact, to a degree so significant that the county wasn't sure that they wanted to continue operating or continuing to support the operations of MOSI. And so we took some headlines. You know, when you consider in 2016 that the venue alone lost $1.5 million at the end of the year. You know, there were tons of rumors about MOSI moving downtown. None of those were actually substantiated. That was all based on an administration trying to save their job and creating a lot of buzz around something that really never had any traction. So one thing I always want to tell people is that MOSI is not moving. We are a permanent fixture here at Fowler Avenue. We are a centerpiece in the county's new RFP, request for proposal for developing this property. That proposals for that are due in December. And the cornerstone of every presentation is that MOSI's home is here at Fowler Avenue across from the University of San Francisco. So just so everybody knows, we are not going anywhere, no plans. So that's where we were. And let's just quickly as to where MOSI is today. Since we reopened in 2017, as Sharon said, we closed for 3 months to do a complete restructure and renovation. We've welcomed back over 400, it's around 450,000 now. But we couldn't be more proud of that because that's a substantial number in 3 years. It shows our connection to the community. We have done a complete renovation. We've done a lot of projects here, but I think the one that has had the most significant ROI for us is a complete renovation of our learning center. The learning center is where we hold our camps, we hold education programs. And when I say complete renovation, I mean from top to bottom. We're talking infrastructure with plumbing, with internet, with paint, with graphics, you know, fixtures, because the centerpiece of MOSI is education and inspiration and innovation. And without having a good facility to launch those from, it distracts from the quality of the programming. So the programming had, or the building had to match the quality of our programming. So that was something else that we've done. And also, I think it's important too when we look at how do we engage the public and especially kids in education, it's about fun and identifiability is what I call it. And here in Florida, we all know mascots. With Orlando being just down the road, we can think of several very, very iconic worldwide mascots. So we created a mascot called Moonbase Mike. And Moonbase Mike is an astronaut. He makes lots of appearances, and what it does is it just makes another element of connection for the public with us. We've also, since opening, we've drastically expanded our outreach programs. And those outreach programs mean bringing MOSI experiments and programs to community events, to field trips, you name it, to shopping malls, whatever the case may be. That clearly had to change after March of this year. And so we also launched a virtual MOSI. Virtual MOSI is something that during the shutdown, which we would call from mid-March through mid-May, we did 5 days a week, and we did different themed lessons every week that parents who were at that point in time conducting learning from home with their children were able to use as an addition to the curriculum. It was endorsed by several schools within Hillsborough County and Pasco County, including a lot of science department heads saying to their parents in separate emails, hey, if you're looking to augment what we're doing here at home, the virtual MOSI is a great program. Because brick and mortar schools opened, we did change that a little bit to we only do virtual MOSI now on Thursdays and Fridays, and it is at 9 a.m. and you can find it on our MOSI in Motion Facebook page, which is then repurposed and reposted on all of our social media. So, and the other great part of what we're doing here as far as education and where MOSI is heading is in February, we started the process of implementing a strategic plan. Little could we have forecasted or predicted that we'd be in the midst of a pandemic as we were getting ready to launch our strategic plan, but turns out there may be no better time than during a situation like this to be implementing and developing a strategic plan, as the essence of a plan is to be focusing on the future, and the future, as we all know, has completely changed in a matter of months. So it was pretty timely for us to do so. Quickly, again, as we continue with our education can take a lot of different forms. It's not just the instructional element. At MOSI, we believe our exhibits are incredible educational tools, and we have focused them in a way of a STEAM focus, and STEAM being science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Art is a significant component of science. It's prototyping, it's thinking of things in a different way, it's drawing. So we felt it was important to show the connection of art to science, and our exhibits show that. 2018, we did an exhibit called Be the Astronaut. It was very, very hands-on with a lot of rocket launching, simulated rocket launching and lunar landing. 2019, we were lucky enough to have a built-in promotion. It was the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing. Nothing speaks science and innovation like being able to showcase a great, American accomplishment, such as landing on the moon during the Apollo missions. And then right now, we are currently showcasing what is hands down my favorite exhibit that we've done here, and it's called Space for Art. Space for Art is a foundation that is part of a passion project for astronaut Nicole Stott. Nicole Stott lives here in the Tampa area. She's a Clearwater resident, born and raised, went to Clearwater High School. We work extensively with Nicole, and she, in all of this, agreed to bring her Space for Art exhibit here. And what is so great about it is not only how it displays that people who are astronauts, scientists, computer programmers, robotics engineers, they have a hobby, and most of them have the hobby of art. So it continues to show what the great connection is of art to science. But this exhibit is 100% visual. And that is an important element in these times, as we want people to experience things, be able to have a dynamic experience, have fun. And there is no touching in order to have the 100% experience of this exhibit. So completely hands-free, all visual, and based in art. It was supposed to end this summer, but given where we're at in these times, Nicole has agreed to allow us to keep it until the end of winter break in 21. So that's January 7th or 8th. So my shameless plug is coming right now, and it's, if you haven't seen it, please make an effort to come and see it. It's a dynamic exhibit showcasing a lot of artwork from astronauts and very famous scientists that you'll be very surprised with, as I was. Next, as we look at the community is everything to MOSI. And so with the community being our everything, our staff is also everything. And we haven't had a full-time staff member since 2017 when we reopened seek other opportunities. And to me, that speaks volumes for what MOSI is, not only in the community, but what it means to our workforce. We also took the opportunity to expand our relationships, and relationships need to be win-win. And for us, they're all focused on how can we spread educational content through other channels. Just a quick smattering of who we've partnered with. It's, Moffitt, the Tampa Bay STEM Network, the Tampa Bay Lightning are a significant partner of ours in making the community accessible to us for our programs, including us in their events and their promotions. as well as PDQ. PDQ, a great Carrollwood business right there on Dale Mabry, locally owned and started by Nick Reeder, a great guy and friend. PDQ does lunches for our summer camps, and for each lunch purchase, they donate an amount back to us. So again, partnerships like that allowing us to extend our educational programming is completely valuable. Again, just kind of a quick showcase of where we were headed with, if you look at the first headlines on the first slides to where we are now with some of these headlines, it's a completely new MOSI. And it's, elements of the Hillsborough County Commissioners calling, MOSI, the Museum of Science and Industry, the community catalyst. And you can't do that without a foundation in innovation and education. We offer the STEM programming. Our mission has always been to have a guest experience that would be enhanced and dynamic. And really since 2017 and reopening, the venue has done nothing but gather momentum. And I include that in during the pandemic because of us being able to change direction so quickly, given the nature of our staff and who we are, and making education and our programmings all virtual. So while we've lost in-person momentum, which is one element to the venue, we haven't lost, and in fact, I think we've gained a ton of momentum as an educational resource in the community with our new programming. Our community impact since 2017 has been significant. When we look at programmings and school field trips, outreach programs, we're looking at over 70,000 children that have been impacted from our programs. Students, hundreds of thousands of students in Tampa Bay have participated in our programs. And, as we were talking about earlier, Chris, the Science After Dark program. When we were looking at, people think education, and I would be in that group. When we think education, we think children, or we think young adults, youth. People in school. Well, education is applicable at all ages and all demographics. And we wanted to ensure to engage our adult community as well with education in an appropriate way. And so what's more appropriate than an evening event with, wine, beer, appetizers, and themed events. So each Science After Dark has a theme, and it's meant to engage and educate an adult who might then go and say, hey, have you checked out MOSI lately? I learned this. What we've also found out too is MOSI's been a resource in this community for a very long time. And part of that means that people who are now adults always have a story about, I remember when I was a kid and I went to MOSI. And we wanted to re-engage that crowd into our programs, and Science After Dark was the perfect event for us to do so. And then maybe our biggest marquee event, which again, unfortunately will not happen this year, but we're looking at different ways we can do it virtually, is we have been for several years now the host site for the Hillsborough County Science Olympics. And we will continue to do that this year. It's taking a different form, obviously, but we will continue to be an engaged partner in that for the Hillsborough County school system. Impact of our MOSI mission. So if we look at, mission-based venues always have purpose within their community. And MOSI's commitment, or MOSI's mission, as we look at how are we in the future going to best impact education here in our Tampa Bay community, we said we need to look at what are other venues doing that are similar to us. So basically do a modeling study. How are these venues that are having great success doing it? Because when we took a deep dive into data here in the Tampa Bay market, we've had a great STEM degree production here in the Tampa Bay area, but that hasn't translated into jobs. And so what that means is we have a demographic coming into our community, or our community getting education here at one of our many, higher institutions of learning, and they're taking those jobs and they're going out of market. And they're going out of market because this market just doesn't have the science, technology, careers that STEM people are looking for. In fact, Tampa actually ranks 17th in mid to senior executive positions within STEM-related careers. There's a great opportunity there for us to improve on that. And it starts with education in children. It starts with inspiring them at a young age. And it starts not because of that, not just in making them want to have that degree, but if you create a market of people who have that education and have that desire, the jobs and the businesses are going to follow because that will keep that talent here. So that is what we are focusing on for the future. Because if we keep the talent here, MOSI becomes even more vibrant than we are now. And with STEM and STEAM programming, it all is about the early and the local and keeping all of our talent here in the Tampa Bay community. So looking to the future. Our vision for the future is that MOSI in Motion is going to be a significant part of what we do. MOSI in Motion, as I said earlier, is an outreach program. It has needed to take a different form in these times, and so we do it now virtually. We offer this programming to classrooms. We offer it to homeschooling. We offer it to parents who are at home doing education, who aren't doing homeschooling but are still allowing their children through virtual education to get their from their designated school. And our hopes are with MOSI in Motion, even now on a virtual level, is that we become the catalyst for the STEM and STEAM education in the community. The reason that's important is because all of the primary high-paying jobs today are all in STEM and STEAM related careers. The sciences, the technologies, the engineerings, and the maths. Those are hands and shoulders the highest paying jobs for people right out of college. And we want to be able to supply a good foundation for that. So as I said earlier, when we were looking at what we were going to do in the future in our strategic plan, that required us to have a new mission and a new vision. It doesn't mean that the mission and the vision that we had for 30 some odd years was wrong. I strongly believe that you have to constantly be thinking to the future, and what once was your mission may not be what you need your mission to be moving forward to achieve your goals. So a new design mission for us was based in that we wanted MOSI to really become the intersection of science and technology and innovation. We want MOSI to be the place that people think about for a conversation, talking about what learning means, ideas, innovation. So our mission statement now has taken that form. Institutional vision is all about being, as we had seen in one of the headlines, we want to be a catalyst. We want to be the reason that the Tampa Bay region becomes the hub of science and technology, not only in Florida, but really in the Southeast. And then clearly our 5-year strategic plan is that we are an essential part of the community. We're basically an ecosystem supplying that science and technology education, but we're doing it in such a way where it's enjoyable. It's not just programming. It's not just education. It's taking education programming and having separate programs, but also having an exhibit path that engages a bunch of different dynamics, a bunch of demographics and ages in education, so that while they're having fun, they're learning as well. New values. Again, doesn't mean your old values were bad. We just know to achieve the goals that we have moving forward that we needed new values. And this was a fun exercise. And change is never fun or easy or welcomed in most cases. But in this case, as we were looking at what our new values were going to be, we came up with the ones that you see in front of you. And it was enjoyment, learning, impact, collaboration, innovation, and trust. And I'll tell you that in the exercise, that wasn't how they actually came out. They came out like innovation, trust, learning, impact, enjoyment, and collaboration. And as we were sitting around looking at it and talking about, okay, what do we need our values to do? And we always landed on the same page, and that was we needed our values to be actionable, meaning I can measure it. It means something. And looking at it and understanding that what the word elicit means is to call forth or draw out action from something, we lucked out, not going to lie, and all of those words spell out the word elicit. So it was a great fit for us. It's a great acronym, and I love it because it helps our culture, our employee culture, because the values are everything to an employee culture. And if they were just individual words, I'm sure our staff would remember them at some point, but it almost is just pure memorization. There's no reasoning behind it. But having a word like elicit, every one of our staff members can remember the word elicit and then recalls easier what our values are in regards to how that word spells out. So it was one of those unintentional blessings and a great find for us, but maybe that's how the exercise was supposed to go in the first place in planning for our futures. So new values of elicit. Future programming. So the one thing that I just want to point out is every single logo you see on this page is based in education. And all of these programs have been created since March of this year. To say that I am overwhelmingly proud of our education team and our programming team and our exhibits team would be a complete understatement, because I think within any normal non-COVID year to come up with this much new programming would be an exceptional feat. We've been able to do it during a pandemic when we aren't all together, when connectivity is a little bit more challenging. We've been building the airplane, if you will, while we're flying it. And in doing so have discovered some great engagement educational programmings that cover wide diversity and demographic. MOSI in Motion, as you see, is the one that we've been really focused on. We have a Young Entrepreneurs Summit that was scheduled for April, and while that got canceled, we held virtual conversations with the young entrepreneurs that were signed up for that event. Virtual MOSI. In September, we celebrated a whole month of STEAM education. We've started MOSI family workshops. Now, these can be virtual or in person. We're having our first in-person MOSI family workshop. I believe it'll get calendar. Yep, on the 14th. And this will be a chance for families to, be outside of their home, but safely, and doing activities together, which we think is a foundational element to successful education. The bottom row, these are some exceptional programs. I'll start right and go left. The homeschool science experience enrichment days, what we call SEED, was designed to meet the demand. Homeschooling rose by, I think, 27-28%, something like that, after the pandemic. So what that meant was school districts saw a decrease in their enrollment, and homeschooling, or virtual Florida school, a bunch of different things out there, saw a huge increase. And we heard what people were asking for, and we created an entire curriculum of homeschooling, virtual and in person, that has met an incredible demand. Our virtual MOSI in Motion, again, is programming that we carry out via Zoom calls like this and other methods for classrooms and individuals at home doing home learning. MOSI in a Box. This is one that I just love. If you're familiar with, I use this surface, so I always reference it. I don't get paid. This is not a paid endorsement. Stitch Fix is a service where you can request monthly boxes sent to you with clothing apparel in it, and you can keep what you want, you send back what you don't want, pay for what you want. So we took that business model and put it into MOSI in a Box. And what this is this is available really anywhere in the United States. You tell us what curriculum you might be working on, we design and put together the elements of an experiment that you can do at home or in a classroom or in a small community event that you're doing. We put all those items into a box. We even include cleaning materials in that just for an added level of security and safety. And we ship that box off to you. And the box comes with all the instructions that you need to conduct the experiment. It comes with what should be the high points of the educational element to what you're doing. When you're done with the experiment, you put everything back into the box, you ship it back to us, paid for, and we then sterilize everything and put it back into circulation as being an available experiment that's out and to be distributed. So that's been a really cool program for us. And then as a resource in the community and adjusting to our times, the MOSI e-learning hub is a place. So if I was a parent and I had to go back to work, but I wasn't comfortable sending my children back to school, there aren't a lot of options for that scenario. And what we did is provided a service where I'm a parent who goes to work. My child can't stay at home for whatever the reason is, but clearly has to continue with education from their school. We provide a classroom environment with only 10 students, and they're spread out with MOSI educational staff on site to assist in the e-learning from their individual school. So kids can come to MOSI in a very, very small environment, get the assistance that they need via what they're doing through their school with an actual educator here. Like I said, we're between 10 to 12 on any given week, but it's very consistent. And what's interesting is it's not usually the same 10 to 12 kids. So it's kind of rotating around and being made available to, I think, a diverse group of folks in our community, which is important. But again, when you really just look at this page and think that these are all elements that didn't exist prior to March, it's exceptional, and I think shows a really, really sustainable MOSI going into the future for whatever that future holds, whether it's in person or virtual. Another part of our future is that it goes along with our strategic plan, is that we engaged a consultant for a year. And that consultant is helping us with our 5-year goals related to board governance, facility, fundraising and philanthropy, image, awareness, and reputation, and earned revenue. So those are the 5 categories that we identified as being the most important categories to get us to where we want it to be in 5 years. All of them have a foundation in education. So all tied together, while each separate, they all have an important role and all tied together in the end to the return on our investment with Carter and in our venue. Another element to MOSI for the future was that we needed a more impactful board presence and a more diverse board presence. The board prior to 2017 was absolutely enormous. In fact, there may have been more board members than employees. And whatever the motivation was for board members at that time was important to them. But we had to step back and have difficult conversations about if MOSI is moving in a direction where we see it going, we knew what type of board members and what type of diversity in our board we needed. So when we look at the organizations represented by our board now, it ranges from agricultural with Two Rivers Ranch to technology and Synapse to Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, City of Tampa, the airport. We have legal, financial. It's a very, very broad brushstroke of talent from a lot of different and diverse career backgrounds now that make up our MOSI team and what our board team. And what that means to us is that we have a lot of resources. When we ask questions or we're looking for partnerships or things that we can do in the community, we have a lot of people that are going to be able to contact a lot of different audiences, opposed to before when it used to be pretty singular in who we reached out. So we love the diversity of our board. That is really where we're at in the presentation. Hope it gave you a snapshot as to where MOSI's headed in education. And if I'm more than glad to answer any questions or anything else that you may have.
That was excellent, Rob. I
Thank you.
mean, I've been working with you guys for a long time, but I wasn't aware of all of those elements and especially what you've done this year. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, and even this year, since March, I mean, our fiscal year goes from October through September. And so actually, just in transparency, this past fiscal year is the only year that MOSI hasn't posted a profit since 2017. And I think that that's pretty justifiable given the world and the conditions and the circumstances that led up to it this year.
Of course. Yes. I mean, that has to be a struggle, but you guys have done a phenomenal job. And
You know, yeah, the staff here, I was asked recently, what was the most important thing that you've learned from all of this in 2020? And I said, I'm not sure if I learned it, but it was complete reinforcement in people. And the staff here, we make sure to thank them. We make sure to acknowledge them. It's no easy, I have different responsibilities here, but the success of MOSI and what you've seen in this presentation isn't a result of my work. It's a result of our staff's work and their dedication. So I said it was what I've taken away from this year is just the confirmation of that everything related to the success of a business or a venue like ours is based in people. And we just continue to let them know that they are our most valuable resource.
Hey, Rob, I have a 16-year-old son, and
Yeah.
Last week, I don't know, the topic of MOSI came up, and he said, "MOSI, that place is the bomb. That place is nice." Even 16-year-olds they're still loving MOSI.
And that's 16. Yeah, that's a tough demographic, boy.
Right.
Sure.
And he's really hyping it up. MOSI, that's it.
Well,
that's the place.
we are. So, Steve, is your son into gaming at all?
Yeah.
Okay. I asked that because we have upcoming a huge amount of gaming programming and camps coming up. The most significant one, and I'm not talking out of school here, and this isn't secret information, but MOSI is going to be the Super Bowl headquarters for the esports gaming portion of the upcoming Super Bowl. So we are hosting that here in our Welcome Center. We don't know, I can't give you what that looks like because we're still assembling the gaming portion of that, but the Super Bowl gaming element and events are going to be held here on the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday leading up to the Super Bowl. So we are extremely excited about that.
Oh, that is exciting.
Yeah.
And you got to get that word out.
Yeah, tell your son. That's going to be
I will.
huge opportunity there.
He grew
So,
up.
Rob, you may have mentioned this. Great presentation, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
What year did MOSI start?
Man, there's one in every group, isn't there? So I can answer that a couple different ways. MOSI as a science center started in the mid 60s in Temple Terrace. It wasn't on this site. It was much smaller, but it started there. In the 80s, it made the transformation to the iconic building that everybody knows, the huge concrete structure. And then in the early 2000s, the building that we are now in was created, and at that point was Kids in Charge, which was meant for a K through 5, 6 tops engagement exhibit experience. So there's been a lot of different stages to it. We always say that MOSI's been in the community for 37 years. And that's just based on the old iconic building that's right here. But in reality, the science element of an attraction has been here since the 60s in Temple Terrace, serving the community. The other thing too that I want to mention too is the iconic building that most people identify with MOSI. As part of our renovation and restructure, the operations for MOSI are no longer in that building. We are in the Kids in Charge building. That the old building was completely inefficient. It was not sustainable given the finances of MOSI. It is now the home to Hillsborough County Emergency Services. So what that means is if you were to go into that building, which you can't, you would find hurricane supplies. You would find pet emergency supplies. You would find the county's supply of COVID supplies. So there's no testing that goes on here, but it's just supplies that are in that building. And so people say, well, the building's a lot smaller. Yes, the building is a lot smaller. But as far as exhibit space, we only lost 6,200 square feet of exhibit space coming from that building to this building. And the reason is that it was perception. You had to go to 3 different floors in the old building to see the exhibits. So the feeling of it being spread out gave it a much larger feeling of what exhibit space actually was. So that's a really long answer, Kelly, to a...
No, it's
Okay.
interesting. It was a little bit of a leading question because Sharon and I were on the line today, and no longer the Sun Dome, but the Yingling Center is 40 years, which is, hard to believe. But I was thinking that MOSI had been around almost as long, and I'm going to try to lure Sharon into this PR campaign that I'm going to be working on with the 40 years at the Yingling Center, and would certainly like to compare notes with you and with MOSI. And my daughter, I was working on the campus of USF when the elementary school was built right across the street from you.
Yeah. Piso, yeah.
Yep. And if you were faculty or staff, your children could go there on special assignment. And we specifically sent my older daughter there so that she was right across the street from MOSI. I mean, that was
cool.
Is that collaboration still going on?
So yes, there is a lot of collaboration that we do with Piso. Not since March, but yes, the programming is all there. It's a great access. They just take the bridge right over Fowler right to us. We, prior to all of this, were doing tons of planetarium shows, programming such as, DNA scientists, dissection, chemistry things. So we were basically the scientific programming for Piso, the outreach portion of it. So all of that is still there. The relationship is still fantastic.